Hey, everyone. So this meeting's being recorded. Joanne, you want to take over?
Sure. The meeting of the registrars is for October 19th is open. We have everybody here: Wendy, Cornell, Kari, and Joanne. Kari has several issues she wants to bring up, so I will ask her to start.
Great, thank you. So the first item is relates to the election advisory 20-02, which is about advanced processing of early voting ballots. And we have sent out nearly 8,000 of them. And we're getting back, I'm afraid I don't have the count right now. I think we're definitely over 3,000 that we've got back so far. We've also had a very robust early voting, 3 days of early voting. I can report on 2.5 days. So Saturday, we had 330 people come through in 4 hours. We had a line out the door and down the sidewalk as we opened at noon. And we had 59 voters in the first half hour that we were open. So it was busy. Sunday was a little quieter with 197 voters in 4 hours. And today up through noon, we've had 140 voters. And about a third of the voters coming in requested ballots to be mailed to them. So that adds to our processing at the end of the night because we have to scan in all of the barcodes on the labels that are placed on the voters' ballot envelopes when they come in to vote early. And so we get a notice from the state system that says, you can't process this because there's already something happening in the system, which means to us that a ballot has been mailed. So we have to reject the ballot that was mailed in order to accept the early voting in-person ballot, so that we're managing how many ballots have gone out and the fact that we're only going to accept one ballot back. And every evening we order a new extract to capture the most up-to-date data from the day before. So today we are entering in everything from today's voting. And then tomorrow we'll upload a new voter list that reflects not only all the voting that has happened to date, everything that's been scanned in, but anyone who's moved out of town in the meantime, anyone who's newly registered to vote and is now eligible to vote. So what we're also finding is, and actually the first day we had someone who voted in person and we weren't able to scan them in because between the time of voting in person, and it may have happened like the day before that something was processed in another community, that ballot is no longer valid for Concord because that person has moved. So the state system, because it's statewide, is able to track that information. And so those voters are going to get rejection notices from me. And I'm telling them that their ballot in Concord has been rejected because our statewide system shows that on this date, they registered in another community and they should go and vote in that community because we are not counting their ballot. So it's good that we have this check and balance that makes sure that we're not accepting more than one ballot for any voter who comes in.
That's good.
Yeah. So the early opening, because we're anticipating getting so many ballots in the mail, the early opening and removal of ballots is something that I've been talking to Anita Techley, my predecessor, who I'm sure you all know, about and also my staff, about the benefits of doing early removal, early opening and early removal, not early processing. So all the processing I would propose would still be done on election day. But what we can do in advance in a very controlled way is to slit open the ballot envelopes, remove the ballots, separate the envelopes from the ballots, and flatten the ballots so that on election day, it's just processing those ballots that have already been flattened, so tabulating them. Any additional vote by mail ballots that are received would have to be gone through the same process of checking off a list, opening, flattening. So you can only, if you looked at the advisory, you can only work on the ballot envelopes received up to the day before. You can never process ballots that are voted the same day. Does that make sense? So the proposal would be to have the Saturday before the election, since early voting in person ends on Friday. So that we're not dealing with people coming to vote in person in that way anymore. But on Saturday, to be able to open and remove ballots from ballot envelopes that are received through Friday. And then that would be probably about a 6-hour time frame that we'd figure to be able to do that. And then on Monday, to again open and remove any ballots received Saturday and Sunday.
So by Monday, you mean November 2nd?
Yes, November 2nd. So that it'll be a smaller amount. It's just what's received through the weekend, which could be, it could be up to or over 1,000 ballots that are received. But what it does is it divides up the time that it takes to process all of these things, because we've never gotten this many ballots before. We have 2 machines. That was all that was available to lease. 2 tabulators for the central tabulation facility on election day, and which we'll be doing on the first floor next to the town clerk's office. So it will take a lot longer to do if we have to go through the entire process of verifying. You know, the first step is to verify the ballots against the central tabulation list, that everything is present. That takes about 2 hours. That took about 2 hours for the primary. So if we can do that part and then remove the ballots, we're keeping the ballots locked and we're keeping the envelopes locked. So that means they're sealed, the seal numbers are recorded. We have to document who is present. We have to document any issues with any of the ballots, any challenges. It's an open process. It has to be posted at least 3 days prior. We could do it well in advance if it's something that the registrars support. And then we've got an open process, but we're just spreading out the work over more days.
And you have enough people?
Yes, I have enough election workers that I can recruit from them. We figure we would need 2 people per precinct. So one person is reading, the other person is checking a voter list to make sure that we're accounting for every ballot that is going to be processed that day, that is going to be opened and removed. And so we would need 10 people. We're thinking 2 3-hour shifts on Saturday and maybe 1 3 to 4 hour shift on Monday. Any other thoughts?
Excuse me. We've never done this before, correct? I mean, I know we've had early voting before, but it was sort of a minor thing.
We've had a central tabulation facility we've had for we had a central tabulation facility in 2016 for the presidential. We had it in 2020 for the state primary. We must have had it, we had it in 2018 for the state election. So we've had, so the presidential primary and the state primary this year. So we have done the central tabulation facility, but we haven't done the early opening and removal. And that's only been available since September. That was the first election that it was available.
So Kari, just to be clear,
Mhm.
you want to start this process on, because early voting ends the 30th. You want to start the process that Sunday and Monday for opening?
Start the process on Saturday.
Saturday, okay, and what time did this end?
Saturday. So we could go from 9 to 3 on Saturday,
Okay,
and then Monday from 9 to 12 or 9 to 1. It's hard to know what the end
Yeah,
time would be.
okay. All right,
But the alternative is, so I've already set the central tabulation facility hours to start at 6 a.m. so that we have the benefit of as much time as possible for processing, but it takes time. There are a lot of steps to the process.
okay, okay. Sorry, if you hear noise, my house is being roofed.
Oh my.
Yep,
Sorry, if I may.
Please. Oh, actually, it's up to Joanne. It's not me.
Joanne, if I may interrupt.
Please.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm Carlin Reed. I was the warden for the central tabulation for the September state primary, so I saw how this process went. And what Kari describes makes a lot of sense to me. It will work. What we did in September, we processed at the central tabulation just under 5,000 votes, and it took us until 6 p.m. to do the entire process at one time. That was for 5,000 votes. What Kari is expecting is to be substantially more than that. So I'm really glad she's going to split it up in 2 days, because I think it'll get the job done. That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts?
no, I think it's good that you have those two machines.
Yeah.
So now, okay, so. So basically that just creates a tally sheet, just like the regular.
No,
machine.
we're not actually tabulating anything.
Nothing's
We're
tabulated.
not,
Okay,
absolutely nothing is tabulated. All we're doing is advanced processing up to the point of tabulation,
okay,
so
good.
that we're going through and we're checking to make sure that they're checked off the voter list.
Okay, good.
So we're accounting for every single ballot, and we're making sure that every ballot, which is why the challenge process is available during this time,
Mhm.
so that if anyone wants to be there and wants to challenge a name being read out loud, as this person doesn't live in town, or whatever the valid reason for a challenge might be, there's a process for challenged voters that is done for absentee voters as well, where, the name and the address of the voter is written on the back of the ballot.
Mhm.
The name and the address of the challenger is written on the ballot, the reason for challenge, so that if there's a recount, or if we're chosen to, for the random audit, then at that point, that ballot would be pulled. And then the registrars would vote on the validity of the ballot based on the information provided. So all of the parts of the election process up to that point are still in place.
Good, okay.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question. Maybe it's just not my understanding of something, but say we start for those envelopes that are open on November 2nd.
Yep.
And if there's a problem with the signature or something like that, and we're supposed to get in touch with the voter and have them, receive a new ballot, how do we do that
No,
amount of
at
time?
that point, that's
you out of
not,
luck? Or is it too
yeah.
late by then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
At that point, you're already, so at that point, we're already processing. So there's no,
Okay.
you're not communicating with voters. What we're doing actually, right now, as the ballot envelopes are coming in, all of
Oh,
the
that's already
mail-in,
happening.
that's
Okay.
happening now. And we
Okay.
have some that have been put to one side that we have to look at further and say, okay, what level of handwriting expertise do we need to have? We check with the elections division, hear what they have to say about it. They're supposed to come out with an advisory about it because it's complicated, but for the most part, the signatures are exactly the same. So it's not an issue. It's for those few that, the online vote by mail application doesn't have a signature. So for those, we have to check the voter registration forms.
Okay.
Well, for some of those, we have the logs. It's sort of an accounting of the voters' residency or activity, whether they're active or not, but it doesn't actually have their signature on it. So for those, we have to go back to the logs. So we're, sort of going through all the levels of checking that we can. And then if we have challenges, it may be a Board of Registrars issue to look at those signatures, or we reach out to the voter and say, we've got a problem with this. But we have to hear more from the state about exactly how to handle those. And there is time, but once they're at the central tabulation facility, we are not reaching out to the voters anymore.
They're done. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's why it can't be done on the day that
Yeah,
received, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question. Yeah, it's a complicated election for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be lots of fun.
Yeah.
Actually, the day that you swore me in, there was somebody coming in to put his ballot in the box, and he was like, "I hope it gets counted." I'm like, "Well, that's my job." Yeah, it will. Don't worry.
There are a lot of questions and concerns, and that's why a lot of people who requested a ballot by mail are coming in to vote.
Yeah.
They're calling and they're saying, well, I don't know about whether my ballot's ever going to reach you, so I'm going to just show up and vote. And often they're coming with their ballot, and there's a process for that. So we reject that ballot. They come down to the town clerk's office. We verify that we haven't received a ballot from them, and then they sign basically an affidavit saying that they haven't cast a ballot anywhere, and they're authorized. So it's a third of the voters coming in are in that situation. So we don't know how much that'll change. This is only day 3 of early voting. So,
Is the drop box at the townhouse open?
Yes, it's there 24/7.
Oh, okay.
It has, it has like a brass flap, to cover it, sort of protect it from weather. And that's a little tricky for people. As I was waiting to drive out from behind the townhouse, I saw several people come up and they were sort of looking at it. There's a sign below it that says flip up the brass flap. It's kind of a tongue twister to insert your ballot. And they're sort of, okay, it doesn't look like it's something you can flip up. So I have to think creatively on how to make it a little easier for people. But it's working. I mean, we're getting a lot in.
So if someone has requested a mail-in and then they decide it would be better to show up in person, that's creating another level for you of work?
Yes, because we can only accept one ballot, but they are always allowed to vote in person, as long as they haven't cast their ballot already. Once they've returned their ballot and it's been registered, they can't cast another ballot. We're not going to go looking for it to dig it out. They've changed that regulation, only recently changed. So we're glad.
Wow.
Sorry, on that note, what if somebody shows up at the polls that has requested a mail-in and says that to the wardens.
Then our electronic poll books will show that. They're highlighted in red. And what they're doing right now in the hearing room is they're coming downstairs with the name and we're looking it up. On election day, they're going to be calling us and we'll be looking it up.
Okay.
And yeah,
Sort of like primary day.
yes,
Right.
yeah. So the challenge, and that'll be our next point of discussion, so I shouldn't bring it up, but that has some challenges too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you feel like, Joanne, do you think that we should have a vote, or do you want to discuss it more, or what do you think? Do you have
What would we be,
concerns?
what are we voting on then? To accept the state regulations?
No, well, the state regulations gives us options. It's up to us to choose the options.
Okay,
And I guess I want to be sure before I go ahead with something like early voting early opening and removal, that everyone's comfortable with that.
okay. Those in favor of Kari's plan of opening the envelopes and setting things up ahead of time,
On
Aye.
Saturday and on Monday.
Saturday and Monday? Anybody?
I'm okay.
I
with
can't
that.
see.
So moved.
Okay,
Oh, you can't see. Oh, it's okay.
Oh, we have to do roll call
Aye.
vote. Okay,
Yeah.
so I can call the roll. So Joanne in favor. Connie,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kari, yes. Thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. Okay. All right. So, Madam Chair, if I may speak to the second item, which is the
Yes.
post-election tabulation, and that was an email. I didn't post that online, but it's because it was something that was explained to us in a presentation and we received as an email. Because on election day, people are voting in person, and we're also getting ballots mailed in and dropped in the drop box. We have some options on how we process the ballots that come through the mail and are dropped off in the drop box.
Mhm.
Because we still have to go through all the steps that we do right now, which is, opening, making sure that the ballot envelope is signed, verifying the signature, sorting by precinct and alphabetizing, and scanning into the state system before we deliver them to the polls. For the primary, we had 300 of these ballots in the mail. And throughout the day, we were getting more ballots. And so the pressure was to get all the ballots delivered to the polls. So we have three options on how to handle the ballots that are received on election day when people are voting at the precincts. Option one is to count all the ballots received on election day, which means the polls have to stay open until all the ballots have been delivered to the polls that are received in the town clerk's office. That means I stand at the drop box at 8 p.m. And if anyone comes in at 7:59, we have to get that ballot to the polls after we have checked it for signature. We still have to go through all of our processes before we deliver to the polls, but the polls have to stay open. And it may be that we don't get that many, at 8 o'clock. So it's not an issue, but we don't know what can happen. The second is that the ballots received up to a certain point on election day can be delivered to the polls, but after a certain time, which would be no later than 5 p.m. If we chose that option, the cutoff time would be 5 p.m. So we would go through and process at the town clerk's office, get them scanned in and delivered to the polls. Anything we receive until 5 p.m. Anything received after 5 p.m. doesn't get counted until after November 6th, after 5 p.m. Because with the legislation, anything that's postmarked November 3rd can be received until 5 p.m. November 6th and still be counted for the election. So that's where if we put a deadline on election day, then anything received after 5 p.m., we're not going to worry about delivering to the polls. It's going to be processed along with anything else received after November 3rd that's postmarked by November 3rd. And we would set that date for sometime after, probably November 7th, I'm guessing. And then the other option is to not deliver any ballots received on election day to the polls and to wait until after 5 p.m. November 6th to process anything that's received on election day. Those are the three options.
Kari, if I may say, the
Yes.
last option would have more impact on the tallying for election night if you don't deliver any to the polls. Can I just ask, I do recall during the primary on September 1st, people coming to the polls with their ballots in the mail, like they were going to mail them, and we had to send them back to you. And I think it was great because you put that in that election day notice, do not mail-in ballot to any of the polling places. Do you think that would impact a lot more ballots for the final results of Concord if you went to option 3? If we didn't,
So as far as the
if we didn't
results,
look at any of them all day on November 3rd?
right? I mean, it would certainly change the numbers.
Right.
It could be, if it was 300 for the primary, it could be, 600 to 1,000 on, after November 6th.
Right. No, I'm just thinking that I know, the press is looking for answers the night of the election. Is it a lot of work to run those to the polls?
If you want to run all of them, well, it just means depending on,
Maybe up to a certain time, you mean?
well, I mean, it's the same, regardless of what it is, there's a certain process that we have to go through. We have to verify the signature, we have
Right.
to make sure it's signed, verify the signature, and then scan it into the state computer.
Yes.
Those are the three things that we have to do. So there's no way of knowing at what point we're going to get what volume, but usually it's the mail that brings in the most on election day. People are dropping things off as well, but by that time, I think a lot of people are still, they're going to vote in person.
Okay.
So it's really hard to say. I mean, we think through scenarios like, let's say a voter puts their ballot into the drop box and then goes to vote immediately. This is the cynic in me. Okay, so now we have someone who's going to vote in person. They're going to call our office. We haven't received the ballot back yet because we haven't checked the drop box, and now they're voting in person. And then a short while later, we're now processing the ballots that are coming in from the drop box. Well, we've talked about that with staff, and we will be maintaining a list of all the voters who we get calls for that are showing up at the polls to vote, so that we know when we come across an envelope that this person actually showed up in person. And it can also be, if someone if someone has mailed a ballot, and it happens, someone changes their mind, or they don't remember if they may have, voted, filled in 2 ovals by mistake, and they're not clear, and they really want to have a chance to vote again. And it used to be that as long as it hadn't been processed at the polls, we could pull it back and let them vote. Now the rule is once it's scanned in, they've already voted. They can't change their mind, which I think is helpful for the process.
Yes.
So the wardens and the clerks and the checkers need to be trained that if someone's name is checked off because they're an EV early or an AV absentee voter, and the voter shows up, they get referred to the warden, and the warden tells them your ballot's already been processed. So you've already voted, you can't vote again. That's that one check that we have. The other one is that we'll maintain a list that we will check against any ballot envelopes that come in. So if someone has already gone in to vote, we're not going to deliver that ballot envelope to the polls because we'll know that it's a duplicate.
Okay.
So it's the first ballot received that is counted. That's what the law says.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you have a personal preference?
I think ideally we would get as many ballots to the polls as we can because it's a cleaner and more complete process. But I think that at some point, we reach a point where we need to stop, do the processing up to the point that we do, and then at that point, if a voter came in, then we now have the envelopes and we can say we've received it. But if we haven't processed it yet, we would still be receiving and processing them. We're just not going to tabulate them yet. So if the cutoff was, for instance, at 5 o'clock, if we didn't want to have a cutoff and wanted them to go through, then we would need to just have more runners to get the ballots out. And we would need to have more staff to do the signature verification on election day.
Yeah.
So those are sort of the things. I initially was really concerned about people voting when their ballots are in some point of process of coming in, because then we've got ballots that have been removed from ballot envelopes and counted, and then more ballots being delivered, which is, it's crazy on election day, especially for a presidential election. And then you add these types of complexities to, actual voter issues of people standing in front of you. And I just feel like that's an unfair burden for election workers, but they're confident in their role and looking at the voter list. If someone is marked off because they voted absentee in the past and that person came in to vote, they would tell them that their ballot has already been cast. So it's too late for them to come and vote in person because their ballot's been cast. They've already voted. Am I confusing things more? I might be. I don't know. It is very confusing, which is why, the Elections Division has never given us advisories, and they've given us 9. So that tells you something about how crazy it is. I think a cutoff time makes sense from the processing perspective in the office, but I can also understand the desire to get them all delivered to the polls on election night.
I kind of like the second option, which was deliver everything by 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a happy medium there. It gives
Yeah.
your staff enough time to get done what you have to do. Okay.
We're just
Uh,
kind of guessing because this is
New.
new to us anyway.
Yeah, the thing that is a little tough to figure out is we need to let the state know, or we need to decide and let the public know 3 days before the election. So we don't know what it's going to look like. We'll have an idea though from things that are mailed back. So if we have most of the ballots back, then we probably don't need to have a cutoff of 5 p.m. because we're just not anticipating getting that many ballots back. So it's something that we can, I suppose it's something we can decide later, or we can just
Done around?
decide now and just stick with it regardless. I do like the 5 p.m. option, just because so much can happen between 5 and 8 with just voter issues.
Yeah. So you have to let the state know which you're going to do
Yes,
3
at
days.
least 3 days before. Yeah. Yeah, so it's 3 days would be Saturday, so Friday after early voting, and that last day is going to be a doozy. I mean, it's always, it's the last opportunity to vote early in person. And sometimes people are willing to stand in longer lines to vote early.
Mhm.
That's, just the way it is. So,
Maybe it'll snow.
oh no, no.
Well, then they won't want to come out.
It'll make it a very special election day.
Oh yeah.
I guess that is kind of the middle place, the middle ground there, the 5 p.m. cutoff.
Okay.
So you've sent out 8,000 early ballots, and you've received about 3,000 back to this point.
I think it's been a little more than that, and of overseas ballots, we've gotten about half back. So we sent over 200, and we've gotten around 100 back
Okay.
of those. So we're at the halfway point, and I'm not sure where we are with absentees. I think we're about at the halfway point for that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you've got some time. You may find you might even, overseas may not come back as late as November 13th. Most of them will be in before, hopefully.
Yeah, no, hopefully they will. The thing that we can anticipate is the federal write-in ballots. So a federal write-in ballot doesn't require any advance notice or application. So if someone submits a federal write-in ballot, it's only for federal office, and they can mail something in. And if it's postmarked by November 3rd, then we have to wait for that we can anticipate coming. So that'll be a 5 p.m. or later day meeting on November 13th or beyond. And the election has to be certified by the 18th.
Okay.
Yeah. So can I make a motion that we approve setting a deadline of 5 p.m. for delivery of early voted ballots to the precincts on
Okay.
election day?
All right, so that's option 2.
Option
Do you-
2.
Yeah. Do you want us to vote individually or
Yes.
Stamp feet or
So is there a second to the motion?
second?
Okay. And then any discussion? I guess we've discussed it. And then you can call for all those in favor, and I'll do the roll call, Joanne.
Okay. Those in favor of recommending option 2.
Okay, Joanne,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Connie,
Yes.
and Kari, yes. Thank you all very much.
Okay, good.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we don't have anything else on our agenda. I know that I owe minutes from several of these Zoom meetings that I will work on, hopefully for the next meeting. I will post a meeting for election night. And let's see, that will be, how did we do it last time? It was,
We collected the tapes and called them in.
yeah,
We did a Zoom call with the tapes and we
yeah.
recorded.
I think that's a good idea. So I can post a meeting for 8:30, which would be the earliest.
Yeah, I bet they won't be ready.
Yeah. Should I just post for later? Is it easier just to post for 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be on the safe side, maybe that would be a good idea.
Okay. Sorry, that's my cat. Um, All right, and then I'll need to post another meeting for, let's say, November 17th, unless you want to meet. Well, the deadline is 5 p.m. November 16th to receive any ballots by mail, domestic mail that are postmarked November 3rd.
Mhm.
And so we need to have a registrars meeting where we would tally those. And that would be, we could do that on the 17th.
Okay. Would that
What
be an
time?
in-person meeting?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it would need to be. I don't think we can do that
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
And so what time would work for the 17th?
What day is it?
Tuesday,
Yeah.
I have afternoons and evening ready. The morning is a little busy, but looking at my calendar
Does 3 p.m. work?
for me, ladies.
Okay.
Connie?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 p.m. for November 17th. And so the final deadline for the overseas ballots is Friday, November 13th, and at 5 p.m. And we could at that point hold a meeting at 5 p.m. if you wanted to. That way, if we do have any that come in, we can deal with those, and then I can work on certifying the election over the weekend
Okay.
so that we can get that done as quickly as possible. Because the deadline's the 18th, but I'd really like to get it certified. If that doesn't work, though, we can push it to Saturday or Monday, whatever you think.
So what's the date of the 5 p.m. meeting?
November 13th, 10 days
Okay.
after the election.
Friday the 13th.
Whoa.
Yes. Auspicious.
Is your cat black?
Yes, I have 2 black cats.
Okay.
They give me nothing but trouble. No,
Huh?
that's not true. So we don't have to
So-
meet on the 13th, but
I think we should.
It's fine.
Okay, so we're all set. Do we have to vote on these meeting dates?
no. So,
Okay.
so 5 p.m. on November 13th?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay with me, yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
okay.
Okay, I have a question before we leave. What do you expect of us on election day?
Well, I think it's helpful for you to go to the precincts if you're able
Yeah.
to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if, hopefully we'll have folks helping to deliver ballots. But I think what you normally do is you're sort of keeping an eye out to make sure that there isn't, electioneering or just sort of things out of place. If there's anything that's concerning to you, I would want to know so that I can take some measures and make sure it gets fixed. We have a police officer at every polling place. We have tons and tons of PPEs for elections that the state is supplying. So everything should be fine. We have the sneeze guards, and we have the face shields in the event that a voter comes in without a face mask. It's hard to predict. I have well more than I need of election workers, but cancellations can happen at the drop of a hat. The minute there's an exposure, COVID exposure, then suddenly, groups of people are quarantined. So we have to plan for that because the election's going to happen and we have to be ready.
Right.
So we're trying to be planned, but just, I think taking visits to the polls
Right.
is helpful.
And precinct 1 is going to be right there at the townhouse, so that'll be.
Yes.
I thought the signs look great, Kari.
Good.
Parking, I had a question. When the three of us go around during the course of the day, is it possible for us to sort of wear something that says like election registrar or something, so people don't think we're cutting them in line?
Yes, I can
You want
I'll
the
get name
sash
tags.
too,
I don't want a
Name tag.
sash and a crown. I just want something that says,
Where's my
know.
tiara?
You want registrar
yeah, my
bling.
tiara. It's sort of like so people don't like give me the furry eyeball, like, who is she? Walking
You
past me.
got it. Okay, yeah. Registrar's name tags.
Yeah, I know that's
Yeah.
silly, but it's just,
No, that makes a
there are
lot of
long
sense.
lines and I'm just wandering past people. They might be, I don't
Right, yeah.
want to create any problem.
Absolutely. No, I understand that.
So,
Basically, we just go up and ask people how it's going, like the people who are, and that's it. Okay.
Yeah, you would. Yeah. And I'll let the wardens know that you'll be coming around and just introduce yourself to the warden and ask if there's, how things are going and if there's anything. They're usually calling us, but sometimes it gets really busy and there's something. Sometimes I find that people may not be calling that much, but as soon as I get there, they've got a million questions, or there's something that could use fixing, whether it's reaching out to facilities or just some more of something or less of another, just to make things flow better.
right.
Yeah.
So would it make sense if we three sort of divided up the day
Sounds like
instead
a
of
plan.
everybody
Yeah.
going at 7 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Which is a good time to go because there's no trouble.
There's nobody there.
Okay.
You find out who the morning people are, right, Joanne?
Right.
Yeah. However you want to divide it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, we get time to think about that, I
Yeah.
think.
Yep. And if there is a change where we've really gotten most of the ballots and it doesn't look like there are going to be too many more delivered by mail, I'll let you know if we want to rethink, the 5 p.m. cutoff. But for now, I think it's really helpful to have that. And I thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments, questions? No, but I guess we're done. And I make a motion that this meeting be closed.
So moved. And
Good.
Seconded.
Good to
I
get it
can't
all
second my
done.
motion. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Connie?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm Joanne Menti. I don't know if I know I've seen you around, but anyway, nice to see you.
Nice to sort of see you. I can hear you. Good. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.